When I started this series, looking for the best weapon in Elden Ring a couple of weeks back, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what the final list might look like, allowing a couple of spaces for some weapons that I know are good but haven't used yet. However, this week a weapon that I had relatively low expectations of turned out to be so good I've had to rescore every other weapon on the leaderboard to account for it, on a run that achieved so many feats of boss destruction I never thought were possible. Welcome to the absolute insanity of the Dancing Blade of Rannah. The Blade of Rannah is in Shadow of the Erdtree, and this week we're going to go grab it early. I'm going to do a lazy man's version of my early DLC route, but you should definitely stick with the original if you're relatively new to the game. So Samurai start, then follow my standard setup guide for the flask upgrades and the early sombers. You don't need the smithings for this run. Head to Lenna's Rise to cheese the Knight's Cavalry, then to Fort Fareth to violently murder a sleepy dragon for money. Now I'm grabbing levels in Dex and Faith here for damage, but I'm not going to level any more damage stats until we've got the weapon and we're back from the DLC. From the Ball Prawn Shack, ride southwest to pick up the Dex tier. Head up to Mount Gelmir for Golden Vow. Then to the Frenzy Tower for the Howl of Shabriri. Ride south from the Church of Pilgrimage in Weeping and drop down the cliffs for the Faith tier. So for our early DLC build, we're of course grabbing Old Reliable. So to the Bloodhound Evergaol in Limgrave to destroy the Bloodhound Knight. Level up everyone's first playthrough weapon to +6, and head to the abandoned cave in Caelid for the Golden Scarab. We're going to switch to this talisman after every boss dies for extra runes, and I didn't fuck up equipping it for the boss that drops it for the second week in a row. Then to the Third Church of Marika in Limgrave to ride south for the Bonky Combo of Joy. For our first boss, to Volcano Manor for Noble. Run in, get level with the 2 pillars either side, aim your camera up, throw a snooze grenade and run forward. This will put Fatty to sleep every time. 3 charges, take the riposte, walk back, throw a sleep pot, and the fight is over. Now something that you may wish to do before coming to Volcano Manor is killing Banal at the Warmaster's Shack in Limgrave, then speaking to Tanith and joining the manor before handing his bell-bearing in at the round table to buy Assassin's Gambit. I forgot to do this on this run, but it's worth it for the DLC. Run through the manor, opening the Stone Sword Key Gate, then drop down and run through the corridors for the Dagger Talisman, before dropping down to the bottom for the Somber 7 on the ledge. Ride just north of the Blood Church in Liurnia to find this Scarab who drops Bloodflame Blade. Now to Redmane Castle in Caelid for Radahn. 3 charges through the first attack, walk to the left for another 2, tanking a hit on the follow-up. Then walk to the left for 1 more for the stagger and the end of Radahn. To access Mogwyn's palace early, we're going to ride up to the Blood Church in Liurnia again and speak to Vare. Follow his questline for the Pure Blood Knight's medal and use it to reach the palace. When you get to the top, chuck something at one of the pillars to safely grab the ancient somber. I wanted to keep this for the blades, but feel free to use it on the fang if you're worried about Moog. Speaking of which, I can't really sugarcoat this. We have 12 vigour, so if you get hit, you're dead. However, like I said at the start, if you follow my early DLC route, this fight is scripted and can be done by anyone. So if anything you've seen so far looks a little hairy, follow that route instead. With Moog down and the DLC accessed, we want to level up a bit so we can grab the blades easily. I did my full DLC setup guide with the exception of the big hippo, so run through the back entrance of the Shadow Keep instead of the front. I did grab the Blade of Mercy from the Scorched Ruins too, but this only got used on Malenia, so it's far from essential. With a decent Shadow Tree level, head to the very south of the map and onto the island just off the Cerulean coast. I'm deliberately not spoiling how to get here for anyone who isn't that familiar with the DLC. In the Mausoleum, you'll find the Dancer. Spam Bloodhound's R1s until you're almost out of stamina, then hit her with the first part of the Ash of War. The Ash of War itself is really good too, if she's passive. In order to level up the blades, run through both the Ruined Forge lava intake and the Ruined Forge of Starfall Past to get a 6, 7, 8 and 9. Back to the base game to grab the Somber 5 up the alley north of the Aeonian Swamp, and buy the 1, 2, 3 and 4 from EG for a plus 10. At this point I just want to stress a couple of things. Yes, we are a higher level than we'd usually be at this point in the game, but all of those levels are in Vigour, Stamina and Endurance. The damage stats are achievable after Cavalry and Grail. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is at this point in the run, I was absolutely certain that this weapon was going to rank around Rillana's Swimblades and the Dry Leaf Arts. That's genuinely what I thought I was in for on this run. And for our second talisman slot, down into the Stillwater Cave in Liurnia for the Winged Sword. And after all that, we're finally ready to face Margit. To be honest, this fight is almost identical to the plus 16 Uchi last week. Nothing much to write home about and not that impressive from a plus 10. With a third talisman slot unlocked though, I wanted to start Millicent's questline, which required fighting a boss with a far meatier health bar. The trick to Commander O'Neill is trying to get in some decent damage at the start before all the summons appear, because when they do, it's a lot harder to attack him. Follow Millicent's questline all the way through to the Windmill Village, where you can ride around the left side of the windmill to sneak up on Noble. Then you can convince Millicent to hand over the prosthesis. And it's also worth mentioning that doing this locks you out of the best talisman in the game for this build. The Rotten Wingsword is such a pain to get that I never bother with it. but just bear in mind that this build would be better if I did. So the Draconic Sentinel is probably a little cocky after getting one attack off last week, so we're going to have to watch him.
Holy shit.
Jesus. Run through Lanedale to the Avenue Balcony Grace, then backtrack to kill the Avatar for the extra Lord's Rune. Now I was fully expecting Godfrey to be the boss where this weapon's cracks begin to show, but it's actually insane how fast you can roll out of the spinning attack. It doesn't lock you into animations in the way that you assume it might, meaning that with a little practice, as you'll see as this run progresses, you can basically just hold L2 between rolling. This Godfrey was as easy as doing quick attacks with the Dagger. With our final talisman slot open, and our equip load just rising above the Blue Dancer's sweet spot, head to the Lux Ruins in Altus to kill the Demi-Human Queen for the Ritual Sword talisman to replace it. Now for Morgott.
No, I'm staying in. Come on. Come on. I regret nothing.
Because there is a really good physics here for this build in the Consecrated Snowfield, I headed straight to Nile. Right through the snowfields, all the way to Ordner Town. From here, we ride east up to the Minor Erdtree to kill the Avatar for the thorny cracked ear, giving us our final buff to consecutive hit damage. Now for the big guy. For any boss where you know you have a decent opening, hitting them with a jumping R1 before going to the Ash of War is the way to go. The quad hit of the jumping attack instantly activates all of our consecutive hit talismans, giving us a massive boost to damage. A couple of years back now, on a fully kitted out Faith build, I slept the duo close together and killed them in one cycle with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. And ever since then, the mark of an amazing melee weapon is how close it can get to that ridiculous feat. The very best ones have got really, really close. And we haven't even picked up one of the best talismans in the game for this build yet. So speak to Alexander in Radahn's arena, speak to him again at Mount Gelmir, then head up to the roofs of Farum to do a little sparring with him, then take the shard he hands you, while he explains that he hasn't seen any of this damage because he's listening to this video while he plays Silksong. Okay, so little damage check, now we have all our talismans. I did a bit of testing on Malekith, and the main problem is that the damage of this weapon kills him way before he's ever going to stagger. So I whipped out the unusable Bloodhound's Fang for a couple of posture hits, then let the blades do their thing. Like the Wing of Astal, just because there is one attack of this weapon that is clearly the meta, that doesn't mean that any of the other attacks are bad. If you're looking to deal posture damage to fast attacking bosses, both the standard R1s and charged R2s are both very, very good. Quite frankly, nothing will prepare you for my first attempt at Radabeast. Unless you're a complete nerd about this game, it's actually quite hard to describe how impressive this Elden Beast fight is. Fucking hell. If I'd have buffed after Radagon, I'd have killed him in place without a stagger. That's ridiculous. And when I went back to confirm this, I killed Radagon in 2 attacks instead of 1. And sure enough, if you buff with Howl of Shabriri after Radagon, the health bar at the bottom is this fight with a super underpowered baby weapon called the Wing of Astal. On my first attempt at Plassey on this run, I nearly killed him before he even flew away. But to prove my point about how usable the Ash of War is even when you need to dodge attacks, I thought the best way of showing that was by dancing through the lightning. Generally, when Draconic Tree Sentinels go down easily with a certain build, it's not necessarily an indicator that Loretta's will. Now to the DLC. And for the next couple of fights, I'll just let you watch how the blades are in very frantic but normal fights. These things do enough damage that if I'd continued with the Bloodhound's Fang posture strats, I'm pretty certain that you could get super flashy delete fights for almost every boss in the run. But that's not what this series is about. So I wanted to include some of the scrappier first attempt stuff too, so you can see what you're in for. Head back to the Shadowkeep and start making your way through the secret area to Midra, killing the 2 small hippos on the way for more shadow levels. Through the Darklight Catacombs, which I could actually see this week because I had the torch. I'm pretty sure that the biggest number I've ever seen above a health bar on any of my runs was 19,000 when I deleted Moog in a single combo. For Romina, same old to be honest. I don't really think anything's going to beat the Uchi for this fight. The tip for the blades here with the light roll is roll right at the start of this attack, then you've got a big opportunity to dance. So what are the chances that we can get a flashy delete on Messmer? Well, if you've fought Messmer before, you know the answer to that is almost certainly none. He was actually the DLC boss that I've been fearing since the start. Messmer is so fast and aggressive that it's going to be difficult to just stand there and spam, and his health bar is big enough that even this build's damage just won't be enough. Because of all of this, the best strategy with Messmer down, the Ollier and Arnspark's questlines complete, it's time for Naeseilus. I really thought that I might get a bit further into this series before I completely lost my patience with these lot, but here we are on episode 4. For Consort, there's actually a few really interesting strategies that we can utilise. No, I'm kidding, just roll left and attack in the same places as every other fucking weapon. The blades actually reminded me of a Euphoria fight here, which is as high as praise gets. There's a riveting 3 seconds in phase 2, where you can dance a little and deal some good damage as he starts that big meteor. So that part of the fight's really fun. The mad thing about this run is this is my first time playing with this weapon. I've done 4 guides with the Wing of Astal at this point, and used it a couple of times on unfilmed runs because I like it. I can't imagine what this run would have looked like if it was my 5th or 6th time using these swords. There is no way that this isn't the best weapon I have ever used in Elden Ring. It's as good as Pest Threads for Fire Giant, it's as good as Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike for Duo, it's as good as the Wing of Astal for Draconic Sentinels, and better than it for Elden Beast. It's better than Catch Flame or Blasphemous Blade for Radagon, and as for Mesmer and Midra, we're into territory that I've never seen any weapon reach, including the one that since the start of this series I still expected to see at the top of the list when all was said and done. For damage then, it gets an 8. Not the biggest single hit damage you'll see from a curved sword, but it's still fairly sizable. Bully ability is a 10. Posture breaking is usually pretty important here, but for the blades, it's the way that they just blow past all of the boss health triggers in a matter of seconds, controlling the fight by locking a lot of bosses into scripted attacks. Unlike the weapons that bully through posture breaks though, this would fall off a little in New Game Plus. Ease of use, hold one button and delete every boss, it's a 10. Adaptability, I give it a 9, losing points like the Wing of Astal just for Melania and Consort. And for DPS, I've rescored every other weapon in the list to raise the ceiling enough for the blade. It gets a 10, while every other weapon loses 2 points. If you told me 4 weeks ago that the Wing of Astal would be sat at an 8 for DPS at some point, I'd have laughed at you. And that's it. A new leader emerges from a run that I genuinely didn't expect much from. When you try these ridiculous swords, please let me know how you get on in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon.